Warning, Prospect Watch is not your average hockey podcast, and that's okay with us. Our goal is to introduce you to stars in the making from all over the world. They may not be household names yet, but we assure you they will be soon enough. Welcome to Prospect Watch. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Prospect Watch. And oh my gosh, folks, have we got a special guest sitting in for you folks on the show this time? Woo! Okay, it's not a prospect, but it's the Prospect Don. Oh my gosh, dude, how are you doing? And thank you so much for hopping on.
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh man. Oh my gosh. Let me tell you something, folks. If you guys know anything about prospects, then you guys know Prospect On. You got to be following this guy. You got to be checking this guy out. And you got to be checking out all his great stuff because if you want to know about prospects, then you got to go to Prospect Don. So that's why we brought him on the show. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much.
I paid him to say all that. Thank you so much. That was awesome. What an introduction. Wow.
Yeah, he did pay me. Yeah, right. Okay. Anyway, so but I wanted to bring the great prospect on because right now, guess what we're doing? We're talking about Hlinka Gretzky Cup, and that's what's happening right now. That's what they're playing right now. Okay. Well, not specifically right this second, but they're playing it between the 11th and the 16th of August. We've got semifinal games already slated to go for Friday, right? And I wanted to talk to the main man, Pots and Pans, when it comes to prospects about what his take is on some of the games that we got to watch and where we think some of the seeding is, and especially the semifinals that are going to be coming up here with the Hlinka Gretzky Cup on Friday, starting, I believe, is at 1 o'clock is the first games. The first two games is at one, and then
Yeah, 1 year time, I believe.
Eastern time. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So let's just broach that first. Let's just say that. Okay, so the semifinal games, you got two teams going in 3-0.
Mhm.
And for Canada, let's talk Canada first. Because that's the obvious, right? Canada,
Yeah,
seriously? You had any doubt they were gonna be 3-0?
not at all. They are stacked. I mean, every time I look at this roster, it's a must watch. I love so many of these prospects. They're gonna fill out a lot of the top 10. Um, it's just kind of every tournament there's a stacked team. Like Sweden had a really good team. It was like the Avengers, but Canada took them down during the World Juniors. And then you go to the Hlinka Gretzky Cup, and you have Canada, where you would just have a monster team. And I think USA also has a really good team. But there are some teams that were not as good as USA and Canada, and you can see that during the performance. Like Germany, they got absolutely dismantled in some games, and I just love so many of these players for Canada. I think we're going to see a lot of the top 10 be picked this year from this Canada squad.
It's funny that you mentioned that because it seems like Canada just has that machine where they constantly are able to just generate, player after player after player to play in this specific tournament. I mean, they've won what, the most gold medals out of all the teams that have been playing in this, you know what I mean? So it's like, all right, I get it. Okay,
Yeah.
Canada's pretty good. Tynan Lawrence has been playing amazing. Jack Hextall has been playing
Yeah.
amazing. I mean, now you're not. We finally did get to see Hextall get on the score sheet, but still, a lot of these guys are playing really, really well for both Canada and United States. I
Mhm.
agree with you 100%. So now you think the United States team is just as stacked?
No, I think that there's a slight difference. Like you have players like Varga, who I think is a little underrated on a team like that. I think it's like their version of a LJ Mooney
Yeah,
last year because it's just like a guy that has absurd amount of skill and talent, but he hasn't really found his role. But he could pop at any time. It's just like X factors. I like you said, I really like Jack Hextall. He's one of my favorite players that I've watched for a very long time for USA, and it took him a little while to get on the score sheet, but he was doing everything on the ice. If it was assists or anything. To go back to, I just think Canada's depth is where it's at. You have guys like Mathis Preston, Tynan
yeah,
Lawrence, who are
yeah.
just absolutely incredible. A player that I've already got to talk to, two of them, Dax and Rudolph, who I really, really like, as well as Adam Valentini, who's from the Chicago Steel, who's a very good player.
We
Uh,
talked to him
the
too.
Yeah, he,
Yeah,
it was funny because I got to talk to him about, going playing in Chicago, kind of in that environment and stuff. And then the conversation went into what video games we were playing, and like he's a big
oh, that's
Rainbow
cool.
Siege guy.
Oh,
So
nice.
he loves golf. He has a really good handicap.
I was just
So
gonna say
I
he's a
don't
really
know.
good golfer.
Yeah, yeah. He's a really funny guy. I felt like he's going to be a high riser. I don't know where he's listed right now. I think I saw on like a couple outlets that he was like 34, but I think he's top 20. Just right now in my rankings. Ethan Belchet is one of my favorite players. I think that it's just his skill, his upside.
Word. Yep.
Yeah. I really like Ryan Lynn too. I
Yeah.
mean, just like the top 15 players in the class are on this squad. I feel like it's just so many of these guys. You go and you look at the roster and it's like, wow, like how did they pull that off? And then Keaton Verhoff is one of those guys that is going to be the number two pick in my opinion in the class. He's just that good.
Yep.
Um, USA doesn't really have anybody like that. It's not a it's not about like that they don't have that manpower, but you got like Landon DuPont on this Canada team, and no one's even talking about him that much. Like it's just like there's so many players. You go on and look at the roster, and it's like all-star, 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 like potentially in whatever league they're in next year. Like if it's the WHL, the OHL, like playing college, like Keaton is. I just feel like we haven't talking about Edwards yet. It's just like there's so many good players. Colin Fitzgerald, who I'm going to be talking to in a couple weeks.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
so there's like it's a loaded roster. I mean, USA has some good players, but a lot of these players would be not in the role that they would be in if they were on Team Canada. Um,
That's a good point. That's a
so
really good point.
yeah, like Delana Dupont, I think would be the best player on a USA team right now. Verhoff would obviously be. I think that he would probably be very high on the leaderboard. He's going to be playing like 25 minutes a night on this team or whatever it is, but you just don't have the depth, I think.
I agree. I agree. And that's what I think is gonna and see, and I think that's what has really kind of handcuffed the United States throughout all of the Hlinka Gretzky Cup because it's not the United States development team
Yeah.
that they're fielding here for this tournament. Do you know what I mean? And that I think is I think they might need to maybe hey, you might want to look at that, reconsider
Yeah,
that. I mean,
that's
the
true.
fact that they're competitive regardless of that fact, regardless of the fact that you got a 3-0 Finland team and a 3-0 Canada team, you know what I mean? And we're going to see the rubber's going to meet the road here, man. The United States and Canada, that's going to be, that's everybody's circling that on the calendar, you know what I'm saying? And so I'm actually a little bit more excited about the Finns versus the Swedes because I think that's going to be a better game. Because I really don't think that, like you said, I don't think United States, even with the players they have, the Hextalls, the Zelinskis, the Schaefer Gordons, I
Mhm.
just don't think it's going to be enough to stack up against the likes of the Canadian team. I'm I'll be surprised if United States is able to hang or if they're able to take them at least to a shootout. You know what I mean? That's kind of where I'm thinking though, but I do agree with you 100%. I think Canada's the more stacked team between the two.
You have 10 players on Canada that are projected to be top 30 picks. You have zero for the USA team. I mean, Chase Reed isn't playing, so he's probably the best player on USA. Um, so like you have Hextall headlining this group, and it's just not the same as if they brought their entire roster, which is like Mikey Burchild is one of my guys, like definitely a fun player to watch. Casey,
Talk to him. Talk to Mikey
oh
Burchard.
wow,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that is
Awesome
awesome.
player. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I haven't actually gotten to talk to a lot of the NTDP guys. That's one area where I haven't gotten an interview yet. I've talked to those guys, like the NTDP guys at the combine and the draft, but I haven't been able to get them in the off season. But I've always loved Burchell's game, and like I think a year out, he was probably being talked about as top five in this class, uh, probably in the top 20 still. But it's the size. I think it's his translatability that people kind of steer the negativity towards in his game, but I think that he's incredibly talented. Every game that I see him play, he always pops off the screen for me. He's
Yep.
one guy that like I think that he's going to be a high riser if he has a good season, and if he grows another inch or two or three, he's definitely going to be in that
And
top 10 contention.
and he's still that young that he very well easily could do that. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things that we kind of talked about in his interview. You know, and a lot of these guys, man, they have that chip on their shoulder. You know, they know. They know, right? They absolutely got their head screwed on and know what they need to do. You know what I'm saying? And here's another one too that I want to throw another name at you too here, just kind of what your take is on this. And we're not seeing this player play in the Gretzky Cup this year, but I would love to hear your take on Rocco Pelosi.
You know, I am not as like knowledgeable on him. I honestly would like to just like be more I think like when I would like to talk about guys, I like to have a lot more viewings.
Yeah,
But
no
yeah,
problem. I just
yeah.
thought I was just thinking of a name that maybe you might have known or heard of or something like that. But let me tell you something. Look into him.
What do you think about him?
I I
Like,
I personally think he's going to be higher than DuPont. I think he's going to be potentially fighting uh, with McKenna for a top spot.
oh wow.
Yeah, I if he has the same year that he did this past season, he's a Shattuck alum. Okay, so he comes from good pedigree. He knows how to play hockey. I mean, every time I see him, he just gets better and better and better. Every game I've watched from him, everything that I've seen of him, he just gets better and better. And putting up the amount of numbers that he was able to put up this past season was like, okay, that's a little gaudy. But you know, they do that in juniors. You know what I'm saying? So
You think that he could go like be the number one pick in this class?
I don't know, man. I think he could be that sneaky one that if he has that really awesome year and depending on how McKenna plays, you
Hmm.
know what I'm saying? It's going to be one of those things. You know, we've seen it. We've seen if a player does really, really well, then they get vaulted up. A player that doesn't do quite so well doesn't get drafted quite so high.
Yeah,
You know,
that's true.
I'm not saying that Gavin isn't, you know, I'm not saying that he's not, you know, worthy of being the potential number one overall. I just think Pelosi's going to give him a run for his money.
Interesting. That would be a huge upset, in my opinion. Just based on, I don't know, just that's interesting. Even Verhoff, I feel like it would might be locked in at that area. I mean, 6'4", 215 pounds. You have all that skill. He looks like a fourth forward out there. Ivar
already.
Stenberg
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Um, this top 10 is absolutely absurd right now. Obviously, you have guys like Logan Hensler, who was in the top 10 last year, and Ivan Ryabkin, and some guys kind of dipped down, but this is a incredible top 10. Daxon Rudolph would have probably might have been the top right-handed defenseman in last year's class. Like maybe, I mean, I was a huge Merca fan, but I'm just saying, like 6'6" Merca size, you can't really teach that, but Daxon
Yeah.
Rudolph is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
You have Mathis Preston, who just had a Hattie, incredibly skilled. Tynan Lawrence, one of my favorite players in this entire class. Like,
He's
yeah,
another one
and
that we talked to. Tynan Lawrence, he's another one that we talked to.
that's awesome.
Um,
How many
yeah,
of
I
you,
mean,
how many players in this class have you talked to already?
not as many for this class. Valentini, Lawrence, Burchild. Um, that's all I can think of right off the top of my head. For this coming class so far. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's really early.
right.
So,
Okay, but like I had talked to Schaefer back in like May
mhm.
of his private previously to his draft year. You know what I mean? So it was like, all right, but hey, whenever you can get him, right? You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, we had the distinct honor and privilege of having the prospect on the show here, and I'm overjoyed, elated, and flabbergasted at the fact that he accepted to come on the show here. So thank you so very much. Can you tell the folks where we can find you and where we can get all your great stuff, my man, please?
Yeah, of course. I'm on YouTube, X, and TikTok at The Prospect Dawn, as well as coming out with some new content and interviews. I have interviews with like Daxton Rudolph coming up, or I already have one, but I'm going to be publishing that. Adam
Yeah.
Valentini, Ivar Stenberg, Landon DuPont is coming up, like probably closer to training camp. Like you said, whenever you could get them, but um,
Right.
like Colin Fitzgerald. I got to interview a lot of these guys really late last year in the class, so I think starting off earlier is better for the content because I had to upload like 30 different prospect videos with the highlights all together at like a very short period of time. So they're going to come out a lot quicker this year. Um, I'm still in my initial scouting phases of a lot of these guys. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, a lot can change, but there's not a lot of like hockey right now that you can watch other than Hlinka, but a lot of these guys aren't on there. And also, like, you have to take some of the Hlinka stats with a grain of salt because when you're playing these teams like Germany and they just don't have the star power, and then Canada beats up on them or USA beats up on them or, you know, Finland or Sweden, they have good games. Like, it's kind of hard to balance who's who. So I
Yep.
kind of like to look at the upside. So it's like kind of watching highlights when you're playing a team like that because it's like it's kind of like an all-star game.
It is.
So you're trying to see what kind of upside these players have, but I don't really like to look too much into that because then it'll go into my like 7-year-old brain where it's like, oh my God, he almost scored in Michigan, like he's going top five. Like you have to separate all the highlights.
Yeah,
So I
right.
always think like that. But this is going to be an incredible class.
I agree.
I
Oh my gosh, I agree.
Yeah, compared it to 2025, like I don't even know who I would have like higher Verhoff or Schaefer. I really don't. I honestly think that I would probably pick the 6'4" right-handed defenseman at this point because during their draft year or their draft -1 years, Verhoff had much better stats, but also Matthew Schaefer is just an incredible person. So it's nothing against him. It's just like that's kind of how deep this class is, as
Yeah.
well as like Ivar Stenberg probably would have been
Oh yeah, that's a
projected
good.
higher than Anton Frondell,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe. So maybe not because of the center's the versatility. I know teams draft differently than that, but Ivar Stenberg's talent is just absolutely incredible. Like on a talent standpoint, uh, this is an incredible year. We already know like Vigo is gaining some inches. He went from 5'9" to 5'10" in his last listing. So if he continues to grow, he's going to be a top 10 pick. Um, I think growing to 5'10" was huge, just because like that was Connor Bedard's height. From
Yeah.
5'9" to 5'10" is an incredible jump in the eyes of scouts.
See, you're not the only one that has that same outlook, because when you get to that 5'10", even though it's only one more inch, it says 5'10". That's double digits.
Yeah.
And when you put skates on, now you're pert near 6 foot with skates on, right? At
Yeah.
5'10", that's 6 foot with skates, right?
Yeah.
Top Gear math,
It's
right?
it's so different. Yeah. Yeah, it really does make a difference.
It does.
So it is interesting. Like Burchild, if he was 5'10", I I hope like if he's 5'11" or 6 foot, like he's or not 6 foot, if he's 5'11", 5'10", he's still gonna have to iron out some issues. But the thing is, it's like not 5'9". Like you have your chances of making it to the league increase heavily. So
Big time.
it's just always interesting.
Agreed.
We obviously saw the tallest draft last year where players like Luka Radijevich, who I was a fan of, didn't get drafted at all. There was zero, I think, under 6 foot defensemen drafted for a very long time, if not the entire draft. I don't know the
So
specific
like the
stat, but
second round, I think, late second round, or no, no,
yeah,
no, maybe later than that, I think.
yeah. I don't even remember who was the 5'11"
Well,
defenseman taken.
there was 2 rounds in a row where there wasn't a single player that wasn't under 6 foot that was drafted.
Yeah, it was
Or two
crazy.
full rounds in a row.
Yeah,
Like, all
yeah,
right,
yeah. I
but
mean, the
okay.
Blackhawks drafted everyone under 6 foot before, and then everybody saw the Panthers just do what they did, and they were like, "Well, we shout out Shane Malloy here, but you need guys that have really good like B games because A game is their skill, and you probably only have the puck 5 to 10%, maybe 5% of the game of your shifts. So you're gonna need that other 95% or 90%
Yep.
on your B game, and that's just gonna be like Brady Martin-esque. That's why he went higher than a lot of people. That's why
Yeah.
Desnoyers did because
No, no, no,
even
I
though they
agree.
have the offensive skill, you're going to need to play that playoff hockey all the time. It's just a change in the times even though the NHL is going to more skilled, smaller players, like higher skills faster, that kind of does go into play here when we talk about scouting because the A game, B game, and C game is very interesting in the scouts' minds, especially for teams. So you kind of have to think like a scout here. So when
Yep.
I'm trying to do these evaluations, I don't like to put a lot into this season. I like to see how they're playing here and if they get better. You always want
Yeah.
to see the progression of what you're going to see in the beginning of the year and the end of the year. You have to watch the tape. Like I have like a ritual where I like to watch a guy on Insta, like his full progression of the year, and I feel like I can see a little bit better. Like Vaslav Nestrasil as one, I was calling him like a top 20 pick. Similarly with Sebastian High from Elite Prospects, as well as someone named Maxwell who's on Hawks Twitter. Like we were on this guy very, very early, and he was projected to go like 45. He ended up going 25 because he's 6'6" frame, really good size, good skater, had a lot of skill but he was not putting up numbers in the USHL the year before. He had 0 points in 8 games. Then this year, he was one of the best players on their team, led them to a championship, not led, but helped them lead them to a championship with Tynan Lawrence and Ivan Ryabkin. And you see him go number one. So they're like Vaslav Nestrasil isn't even on the radar right now for
Yeah.
scouting if we were in of last year. So there's always going to
Oh
be
yeah.
guys that kind of just pounce up. It's like if you look at the NBA, like Nikola Jokovic or Nikola Jokic, sorry, he was drafted like in between a Taco Bell commercial. Like nobody even knew who he was. It was AK who's the Bulls GM, who's that was like I think he got lucky because he hasn't really done anything since then. But the thing was about him is like the Joker also knew that he wasn't good at that point either yet. He was like drafted 42nd or whatever it was. It was kind of
Wow.
high. But so
There you
you
go.
have guys in all sports. I'm a fan of all drafts. Like I could have done this in probably the NFL, but it's a lot tighter circles because I was in NFL draft like savant. I freaking loved the NFL draft. If there's prospects, like I cried sometimes when the Bears didn't take Jalen Carter because he was obviously the pick. But it's all about like different leagues, and I feel like every league and draft you need to see it kind of similarly. It's like what do these guys do well? Like what are their
Yeah,
roles going to be also in the NHL? Because if they only do well in a top six role, that limits their projectability if they don't make it into the top six. Like if you're playing for the Panthers, there's only like one maybe there's like a 15% chance you're going to play in their top six if it's like right now. I know it's
yeah,
3, 5 years out, but these teams are stacked. Like the Sharks, you can't even get into their top six if you're a prospect. It's just so stacked.
it
So
is. It
it's
is.
always interesting.
But
But yeah,
I'll tell you what, this is why we had this man on, because you hear all this information, right? You hear all this incredible amount of knowledge. So thank you very much for hopping on.
yeah. Thank you so
Uh,
much for having me.
yeah, man, I would love to be able to do this again with you.
For
Um,
sure.
uh, yeah, I would love to be able to do that again, and talk about some more prospects and talk about all kinds of great hockey things as well. And you never know what's going to happen here. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yep.
um, please, all his contact information and all his follow information will be in the description here on the show, so you guys can check that all out, and be sure to follow the prospect on all of his socials and everything as well. Be sure to check that out. Be sure to check me out on X as well at Steel Flyers 52. We will catch you all on the next episode of Prospect Watch.